All right, we're live. What's up, YouTube?
Hello, Instagram.
Pull the gram feed up too. All right, welcome, guys. I'm Johnathan White, here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. And I'm here once again with Mariah.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about some things, answer some questions, the usual. Yeah. What were we going to talk about today? I forgot.
We were going to talk about the concept
It's hot in here. I'm
of...
sweaty.
Yeah, I can open the door.
It's all right.
We're going to talk about the concept of being... basically maintaining a long-term relationship versus the idea of attracting partnership in the first place, that the different characteristics of that.
That's right. First of all, I want to announce a couple things.
Open the door.
Yeah, open the door. It's hot in here. So I just released my new Qigong course. It's called Energy Upgrade. It's an in-depth guide on basically energy cultivation, how to do Qigong as an effective energy cultivation practice versus just, waving your arms around, imagining things. So check it out. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video. There's a link in my Instagram bio. That's my Energy Upgrade course. I'm pretty excited about it. And also registration for Multi-Orgasmic Man is going to be opening very soon. So stay tuned for that. If you're on the waiting list, you will be the first to know when registration opens up.
And same for Multi-Orgasmic Goddess. That'll be opening up soon. And if you're on the email list, if you have the women's freebie, then you'll also get an email about that.
So maintaining relationship versus this is really like kind of our culture is a bit superficial. People get so hung up on attracting a partner, but they don't really think about investing in keeping that partner, like sustaining a relationship. It's just like, this kind of hookup culture, instant gratification. And I would say the difference here is focusing on the more shallow things. Like people are trying to attract someone's like, okay, well, I need to make myself look physically attractive. I need to say the right things. I need to act the right way. And when this is the only things you're doing, none of these things are particularly authentic, right? You're not always being authentic to who you truly are, right? Versus doing inner work, becoming a more evolved version of yourself, a more authentic version of yourself. So you're not saying what that person wants you to say, what they want to hear, right? But you're living in your truth, which is beyond words. It's beyond pickup lines and physical appearance and things like that.
Yes.
You want to say anything?
Yes, but I don't really know what yet.
And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that we have this big battle of the sexes, right? There's the red pill guys saying that all women are horrible and that they just want men's money, and so you have to make more money than all the men to be more physically attractive to attract a woman. And then there's the feminists and things. So kind of these extremes that lead to disharmony between your viewpoint. Like when you're approaching dating, when you're approaching attracting a partner as like this kind of a war, as a battle, like I have to dominate this person, I have to manipulate them and convince them to like me, which is what a lot of people's strategy actually is. It doesn't lead to a very sustainable experience. I mean, and some people don't want a sustainable experience. They just want like, a quick hookup with someone, go on to the next person. It's fine if that's what you're after, but it doesn't get you very far and it's not very fulfilling. So to actually create a relationship, to actually create something meaningful, something with depth, something with intimacy, which seems to be kind of a more of a rarity these days, I would say, in our very superficial culture, to create something beautiful, a beautiful relationship based on harmony, on trust, on exchange, giving and receiving, versus just, oh, you look physically attractive, I like you, I like having sex with you, but there's these other people too that, this very superficial thing that a lot of us have been conditioned into. And there's really, and in my experience, there's no real fulfillment in that. It leaves you empty. It leaves you wanting more. Like, well, this person's more attractive. Well, the sex could be better. You keep chasing these very superficial things. And it leads you in a dead end. And I think that kind of sums up a lot of aspects of our world and our culture in a way.
Yeah, I would say what I see is that when people are more in the phase of wanting to attract a partner, they're almost like tiptoeing into how much they can express themselves and how much they can reveal of themselves. Whereas in a more long-term relationship, it's a lot more about just allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to be seen in all of it, regardless of, I guess, just without the fear of being judged for whatever it is that's coming up, and starting to actually really put into place how much support there is in that relationship, that you're going to be there to support each other regardless of whatever you're going through. And yeah, I feel like I could go deeper on that, but that's just kind of what's coming up for now. Is just almost the reserved aspect of being in the beginning stages of a relationship, or just kind of sleeping around and just kind of playing the game, seeing what can happen and seeing what you can get away with. It's almost like the childlike thing of like, okay, I'm going to try and push some buttons. Let's see how far I can get with this. Versus, yeah, just getting further along in a more evolved relationship, allowing yourself to really be seen in all of it and express all of it, and not really like restricting yourself and holding back.
And what I always talk about, I think we talk about a lot, is encouraging people to go to address the traumas you may have, the blockages you have, the emotional blockages, the things that are blocking you from connecting with people, because that's really the real issue here, is that people are unable to connect with someone. They use sex as kind of this vehicle to numb themselves and to get this like short-lived pleasure in a very limited area of their body, without any heart connection, without any spiritual connection. Like, we were out to dinner the other night at one of our favorite Thai restaurants, and there was these two ladies next to us, having some drinks and talking. We couldn't help but overhear they're telling, like, one of them was just going on and on her whole like dating history. And so, as like, it sounded like she had some trauma from one of her early boyfriends, and now she was like basically dating, but not, kind of like leading guys around, but not being able to have any sort of commitment or intimacy, which is fine if that's what you want. But just like seeing how people have these wounds that they're not really addressing from past experiences, from past relationships, and it prevents them from connecting in future relationships. It becomes this kind of game where you're just playing with people. You don't really know what you want, and you just kind of lead people around. You lead yourself around, and it really gets you nowhere. It's not fulfilling. Maybe you have like some, disconnected sex here and there, but ultimately there's this huge collective human trauma around relationships, around again, this male female polarity, and I think it's a very deep wound. And part of it, just being in a polarized body, can be traumatic in itself, because we feel incomplete within ourselves. We have this underlying drive, like, I need to complete myself, but I don't know how. I don't know why I'm chasing, from a young age, it's like, why am I chasing after women or the opposite sex? I don't know, but it's just something's driving me. And this really gets down to the, some of the deeper aspects of like internal alchemy, which is learning to find completion and fulfillment, first of all, within yourself, by kind of completing these polarities that we have, learning to create this internal polarity, this internal male female balance, this yin yang balance, which is what Taoist philosophy and Chinese medicine is all based on. And when you have that balance within yourself, your relationships have a completely different dynamic. It's no longer about, I'm super wounded and I need someone to like help me forget about these old hurts that I have. But eventually that dries up. You drain that person, they drain you, whatever, and you move on to whoever's next. Versus finding completions to these patterns, releasing traumas, releasing blockages, having some sort of way of dealing with your emotions in a healthy and holistic way, allowing them to come to completion, process them, versus just suppressing them, right? And when you that's I would say was the biggest shifting point in me starting to actually attract or get into real relationships that weren't based on this kind of weird neediness and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's important too to recognize that that's really the purpose of all relationships, is to create unity and to create really like a ground of safety and reliability that you can both grow upon. And that's like, love is what we're all searching for, and it looks different for everybody. So it doesn't matter if it's a same sex or opposite sex relationship or whatever. It's still at the core, like, love is what drives us to keep on looking for all these things. And I find that a lot of times in places where people are having conversations like the one we overheard, that they've maybe forgotten that deep down they're looking for love, or that they're looking for that connection to feel complete. And so they're just kind of scattered, dripping pieces of themselves all over the place, and not really allowing themselves to be with what they're feeling, and to look at what they're feeling and what's coming up for them, and to look at what's really underneath, what's driving their actions, and just kind of like going with the flow, doing whatever crazy idea they're yeah, their mind comes up with for that moment.
So the tools, that I always recommend are doing the self-work, doing Qigong, doing meditation, doing breath work, whatever it is that helps you kind of open up to your internal world, understand and feel what's going on within your body. Because most people are afraid. They're afraid to face their feelings that they have suppressed within themselves. They're afraid to face their past. They're afraid to let go and learn to be open and trust, to trust the universe, to trust another human, whatever, right? And it's that openness and that flow and that releasing the past that leads to so much healing, leads you to be able to create something beautiful instead of just living the rest of your life with a shield around your heart, feeling numb every day. I made a video recently on YouTube called Solo Tantra, and just this idea of sexual cultivation. It's something that starts within yourself. Your first sexual relationship is this internal relationship that you have, and the sex that you have is an extension of the relationship you have with yourself. So learning to cultivate this within yourself, bring it to balance and harmony, and then you're in a much better place to overflow and attract a partner who's on the same page, with the same vibrational level, so to speak. So having said that, I think we'll go into answering questions now. If there's anything else you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has any specific questions around what we've said, then happy to answer them, but I feel like that's a decent enough tangent for now.
Yeah, so we're going to answer questions now. Feel free to send in your questions. Lucius Lushinsky, what's up, brother? Says, all of the people who I work with or know have taken the you-know-what. They got the old whammy in the shoulder. The pressure is slowly building. What do you suggest to do long-term? Maybe leave this country full of sleepers. Not sure if there's a place to go out, but some countries seem to have better cut and more freedoms than the one I'm living in. Yeah, this is kind of the great collective dilemma right now, is this weird thing, this medical fascism that's rolling out. Personally, for me, there is no force on this planet that could get me to put this in my body. Obviously, it's not the great thing that they're marketing it to be. It doesn't even protect you from people who haven't had it, right? So it's like, how effective is that really? Anyways, I don't know. For me, I recommend not doing it. I'm not sure what the situation is like in your country. Some places here in the US, it's like, okay, you can't eat out, you can't go to a bar. I'm like, big deal. I don't go to bars, and I'd be happy with not eating out if that was the case. But also, if it's really becoming tyrannical, I would leave that place. It's like in World War II, when it was starting, when things were getting weird in Nazi Germany, there was a lot of people leaving Germany because they're like, we see what's coming. So it's like, if tyranny's rolling out, history repeats itself. It may be time to get out of there.
Yeah, it's a really individual question, because I know every country is so different. And so just really allowing yourself to trust whatever your intuition is guiding you to do, and not honestly not trying to be too logical about it, I would say, because I think a lot of times our mind can be like, oh, like almost justify it and be like, oh, well, there's all of these cons, but there's these pros. And so I don't know, let me weigh it up and let me see. But my intuition and my dreams and, the repeating thoughts that keep coming through in my mind are, get the hell out. You got to follow what your body is actually telling you, not the fear, but what feels peaceful. And maybe that could be something else to feel into, is like, when you think about your options, what feels like, oh my gosh, that sounds so terrifying and so like way too far out of my comfort zone, and what feels more peaceful. It might still feel uncomfortable. It might be like, oh, that would be a little bit scary, but like it feels doable. So maybe just kind of leaning into what are your options and what actually feels better to do. Because the aligned path isn't going to feel terrifying. It might be a little bit scary, but it's ultimately going to feel good. So listening to that.
In the end, we all have the choice. Like, no matter how much pressure or, supposed mandates and things there are, you have the choice to do this. No one can actually make you do this.
Yeah, don't let anyone bully you into it.
It's this manipulation, hypnosis of the thing is that they can't actually force you to do anything. They can only manipulate you, lie to you, and put enough fear in you that you decide to do it. That's really what it is.
And I would also recommend just getting around, whether it's in person or online, more people who do see it the same way as you, just so that in the moments where you are questioning yourself, because I think that's normal, you have other people around you who can remind you, like, no, you're not crazy. We see the same thing as you. Like, yes, keep going in this direction, because especially right now with how loud certain voices are online, in person, I think it can be really easy to be like, oh, no, I'm I'm the crazy one. All of them are right. I'm in the wrong. So don't allow yourself to be bullied into anything.
Whenever, for me, it's been helpful just to disconnect from everything, like to turn off my phone, go spend a few days just hanging out in nature, having fun. And I forget about the insanity that's happening in the world. Then I tune back in. It's like, oh shit, I forgot how weird everything is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like almost like this comedic, science fiction movie if you can detach yourself from it enough.
Yeah. Something I like to remind myself of a lot of times. I saw this video the other day, and it was just of like deep sea fish, and the caption just said like, they have no idea what the hell's going on up here. And so sometimes I just take myself back to that. I'm like, I'm a fish. I have no idea what's going on up here. Doesn't matter.
Being aware, but also being able to disconnect.
Yeah.
Peter Fried says, one last question. I don't think I saw another question. If you had another one. Does practicing and focusing my attention and awareness on my testicles cause me to become better at the testicle breathing technique? Definitely. With all these internal energy practices, it's about really being able to anchor the mind within the body. The more effectively you can do that, the more that you can work with the energetics of the body, because these chi practices are all about really developing the spine-body connection, not as a visualization, but as connecting your mind, filling the parts of your body you're working with your mind, right? So yeah, definitely filling your testicles with your mind will make you better at moving sexual energy and testicle breathing. Jedi Dick Sensei, that's an amazing name.
Wow, that's awesome.
The best Jedi around, nothing's going to keep you down. All right. See if we got anything on the gram. Okay.
Oh, there's a question box. See the red?
Oh, right. No questions.
That's weird.
Yet, but why is it red? Tony Anderson says, real connecting with your partner is way more important than sex in and of itself. The real connection with another makes you both very vulnerable. That's where true energy lives. Totally agree with that. Sex is
part of it.
Obviously there's many layers to sex. Sex doesn't even have to be like physical connection. You can have energetic sex when you're deeply resonating with someone, having like an amazing conversation, feeling connected to them. It's a type of sex, right? But physical sex, physical sex alone will never satisfy you. It always just leaves you wanting more and more. It can be very addictive, right? If it's not balanced with love, with harmony and connection. So I totally agree. It's all about connection. It's all about love. It's about exchange versus just trying to take something. Luden says, when does your 12-week course open up again? It's opening up in October. Again, if you're on the waiting list, you'll be finding out exactly when it opens up very soon. Stephen Watts says, a toxic thought has crept into my psyche, which is I feel like even if I achieved my greatest ambitions, goals, and made my wildest dreams, desires come true, it would still be meaningless and I would still be insignificant. Can you please give me some advice, as this thought is really depressing me and very unmotivating? I can't seem to resolve this horrible thought. This is your inner resistance. It's your dark side. It's the part of you that doesn't want you to grow. We all have this, right? The key is to not listen to this part of yourself. Learn to turn down the volume of it and turn up the volume on your light side. What you want, your inspiration, your joy, focusing on what you want rather than letting this self-doubt, self-belief pull you down. We all have this. I certainly have had it in my life, but I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, something that's been really helpful for me is actually writing down the qualities I like about myself the most and really thinking about my different traits and characteristics that I know to be true and that other people have told me are true about myself, the ones that I do like, not ones that don't feel good, and just turning up the volume on those and focusing more on those and allowing that thought to come in of like, oh, this doesn't feel so good, and not latching onto it and not amplifying that story by focusing on it even more and just saying like, okay, this is just a story. I don't want to feel that way, so I'm not going to continue going down that route. I'm going to go down this route. I'm going to redirect my focus now. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to allow my body to, like an animal does, like shake off this feeling. When something crazy happens for an animal, they always shake off, and it's literally just like dispersing that energy. So we can do the same thing, whether that's just like shaking your body or doing some kind of like punching pillows or kicking something or dancing, whatever it is. But yeah, doing physical movement to like change your state and release that can also make a big difference.
And understand that it's like, yeah, we have these different aspects of ourself, and like we think we're just the singular consciousness, but we have these different layers of our being. That's all these different voices, different desires. It's like light side, night side. Maybe the different organ spirits they talk about in Taoism. Not sure exactly what it is, but you can have a conversation. Like you're like, okay, this is part of me. This is like my self-sabotaging, aspect of myself. Okay, that's nice. I've heard what you have to say, but I'm not going to choose to do that. So go play with in the yard or something, right? I don't know.
Yeah, thank you for your input, and moving on. Next story.
Derek Trevino, what's up, Derek? He says, what's the difference between your Multi-Orgasmic Man course and IEA, which is Immortal Energy Arts? I'm a MOM graduate and have been continuing with the master schedule you recommend for quite some time and love it. Thinking of your IEA Academy now, but want to know what the difference is. Yeah, so these are completely different trainings. Multi-Orgasmic Man obviously is focused more on sexual cultivation, though there's a lot of underlying tools of Qigong, breathwork, meditation, etc. Immortal Energy Arts is pure internal energy development. So basically, there was Multi-Orgasmic Man's packed full of powerful internal energy practices, Qigong, but these are really just the tip of the iceberg, like with how deep energy cultivation can get. And I go way, 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 way more into more of the iceberg in Immortal Energy Art. So if you want to go deeper into energy cultivation, enhance your chi, go into some way gnarlier practices, then Immortal Energy Arts, definitely recommend it.
And you teach very different types of practices in that too, right?
Yeah, totally different. And it'll deepen your sexual practice too, even though there's not, directly sexual practice in it.
Yeah. So I think it could be cool for you to maybe dive into that a little bit more of like what the different practices are. Because I know how they're super different, but I know you could explain it.
Yeah. Well, just basically, Qigong and Neigong is something that it's sequential. It's like you learn, how to do, like, oh, I moved a little bit of energy. I feel a little bit of energy in my hands. And it's like, okay, well, let's go deeper in that. How do you link your palms to your Dantian? How do you use your Dantian as like the engine, which it is to drive chi through your body? How do you open up more channels? How do you, all kinds of things. So just really deepening your ability to move chi. Also, I teach Tai Chi, Xing Chuan, which is a badass practice. It's one of my favorite practices. I teach that in Immortal Energy Arts. I'm going to be teaching Mantis, drills with like a staff that amplify your energy, all kinds of stuff in Immortal Energy Arts. Like if you're even slightly interested in energy practices, like it's obvious.
It's like a buffet.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm always adding new material in there. My plan is to make it like years and years worth of material. So find out more about Immortal Energy Arts Academy. There's a link on this YouTube video.
Checking out the Instagram questions.
Unstoppable RO says, how do you save energy with the magic point technique? The magic point. I think you're talking about maybe the $1 million point technique. I'm not exactly sure if that's what you mean, but I think that's what you mean. This is basically where you press 2 fingers into the perineum between your between your testicles and anus at the point of ejaculation to physically block the sperm from ejaculating. It's not a great technique. It's kind of like a training wheel. I would say it's like a absolute last resort. You don't want to fully ejaculate, use this technique. Honestly, I don't use it much anymore. I teach it in my course just like as a basic, like, this is there, but I don't recommend using it regularly. It's not as effective as full-on non-ejaculatory orgasm because you still have this genital orgasm, the prostate spasms, energy moves, you lose about 60% of your energy still. So it's not a great technique. It's very crude, and I don't recommend using it regularly. I don't recommend it being your main technique, certainly.
I'm laughing. There's a baby bunny right out there, and it stopped and started. It seemed like it was listening right when you started talking about that. It's like right there by the pillar.
We've got all these wild rabbits around our house. They're pretty friendly, actually. Peter Caldwell says, what are your thoughts on Ormus and Monatomic gold? Have you ever consumed it? Yeah, I've had both. I take Ormus. I actually consume these on and off every now and then. Honestly, I haven't noticed anything terribly significant from them, but I already, I do a lot of practices. I'm pretty healthy. So I honestly don't have too much to say about them, but there's a lot of research suggesting that they're, super lit, right? Monatomic gold especially was used a lot in ancient times. In Egypt, they found it in the pyramids, all kinds of things. So, you can do your own research on that.
Always experimenting with everything.
Okay, Sebastian B says, are you familiar with Lee Holden's Qigong routines? Yeah, I've seen some of his Qigong stuff. It's, it's solid. It's your basic kind of medical Qigong. Okay, let me say this. I talked about this in my recent Qigong video, how to go deeper into Qigong, basically. 90% of people are teaching Qigong as more of a physical type of practice where it's like, okay, you move your arms, and visualize some energy moving. That's great. But there's often certain levels of tension that you're doing with this that are blocking your energy from flowing. So getting deeper into like how to connect the whole body as an integrated unit, how to seek your energy into the earth, use your body as a chi pump to drive the movement. That's real Qigong. It's very, very powerful. But having said that, it's solid, basic Qigong practices. It's just fine.
Which is, I'm sure you talk about this in other videos, but which is a big difference between Immortal energy arts and a lot of Qigong and other trainings like that are out there, is that you're focusing a lot more on like the actual like tangible energy experience versus like the physical mechanical movement.
Yeah, and that's you've really got the internal. Your Qigong's legit when you feel the Qi, not just like a weak little buzzing here and there in your hands. Like, yeah, it'll be like that in the beginning, but if it doesn't, after months and years of training, if you're not getting like potent, huge blasts of energy in your forearms, your arms, your torso, your legs, your hip bones, like blasting the Qi very, very tangibly, not subtle. If that's not happening, then your system is limited. And that's exactly why I created Immortal Energy Arts, because for years, I was doing Qigong for many years. I was like, I'm just not having that energetic of an experience. Like, yeah, I feel good. It's obviously good for my health. It's good for my energy levels, but I don't feel this, I read the Tai Chi classics thing. They talk about this powerful energy that very obvious. And that's led me down another rabbit hole of like, oh, a lot of this stuff is just kind of physical therapy movements, which is great. It's fine, but I wanted to go deeper in the internal energy practices. And then I found some teachers synchronistically who, knew how to do this. I learned how to do it, and it completely changed my practice. And that's what I'm teaching now, because I don't see very many people teaching this like level of it. I would say depth of it, whatever.
And not in like an accessible way online either. It's like you came across these people in like very Jedi energetic, just like magical ways.
Oh yeah. Well, it was like, yeah, it was at this point, it was like 4 years ago or something where I was feeling stuck in my practice. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm going to higher levels. And I basically called out to the universe. I'm like, hey, will you, guide me to a teacher, bring a teacher to me to help me get to the next level of Qigong. Literally within a couple weeks, I was doing Qigong out in the park. This dude comes up to me. He's like, oh, you're doing Qigong. Let me show you some things. And he blew my mind, showed me some crazy stuff. And it was he's my Tai Chi teacher now, Jude. And that's also when I discovered the work of Scott Meredith, who would become another one of my teachers. So, when you ask for something, you'll receive it.
Now, can you see the bunny? It's right there. Look this way on this side.
Oh yeah, it's right there in the yard.
He's a tiny little baby.
Is that the one that lives in the flower bed?
Yeah.
They come out every day.
Yeah.
Unstoppable raw RO. That's what it says.
Yeah.
What herbs would you recommend to boost sexual energy? The top ones I recommend are Tongkat Ali, testosterone booster for men. Tribulus is great as well. Goji berries, Schizandra, Makaroot, Hishowu, Rehmannia, Polyrachis ant extract. Some I've been taking. It's pretty potent as well. I think that's a good starting point. Yeah. I could go on and on and on, but those are some of the more common ones, I would say. Alexander FX says, do you smile with eyes while doing Qigong or other practice for energy cultivation? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by smile with eyes, but I do incorporate a bit of, like the inner smile type of practice when I'm doing. Mostly I'm focusing on what's happening in the movement, but I do try to keep my face relaxed. I'm not tense, as I often do during Tai Chi, as my teacher points out.
And when you play guitar.
Yeah. Stephen Watts, he says, I'm not sure if I missed part of the question, but he says, partner because I want to get it out of my system and feel like I'm not missing out on that window of exploration and freedom before getting married. However, I'm terrified to sleep with anyone due to mixing my energy with people and polluting my aura. Can you advise on this matter? Also, is there a way to cleanse your energy aura after a one-night stand? Everyone wants to know this. How do I have the one-night stand and cleanse myself? You can't really do it. You can't just like sleep with someone and be like, okay, let's actually just, undo that. You can't. Like, there's practices you can do to kind of regulate, create more boundaries, but you can't really like. Sexual connection is incredibly deep. It's incredibly intimate. Yes, you can, for the most part, reclaim your energy and cut connections, but overall, you can't really undo it that easily. Having said that, I'm not sure if I missed part of your question, but basically sounds like you really want
to practice
you
or
want
explore.
to sleep with people, but you're afraid to mix your energy and people including your aura. So again, I think I missed part of this, so I hope it's in the right context. But I recommend not just sleeping around with people, trying to make it happen because the idea of it is, for me, I would say it's very unfulfilling to have a sexual connection without a deeper connection, without an emotional connection, without a heart connection. It leaves you feeling empty. Like I don't know anyone who like has like slept around a lot, just had like all these one night stands and felt like very, very fulfilled from it. Yes, it scratches an itch of some impulse, but you always want more, right? So my own approach is like it's something that should be done with respect, with love, and as a sacred act, not just like I need to get laid, and kind of look at like where that pattern's coming from within yourself. It's often a very kind of addictive sort of thing.
And I would say that if that's something that you've been really respectful about and you're just like also really craving that experience, put it out there, ask the universe, be like, hey, I want a practice partner. Like, let's do this. Like, let's create this connection, and just being open to whatever might come. Like, yeah, I know at the start of our relationship, we weren't super like, okay, this is going to be a long-term, like we're going to get married right now. And like, we were just honest and respectful and enjoying the experience of being with each other. And yeah, just allowing that to unfold without it needing to strangle it and like put meaning on it. And so, yeah, maybe even just kind of opening your heart to that of like, okay, I am ready for a partner. Like, show me more examples of what that could look like. And then even like engaging in what's going on, I guess, in your mind throughout the day. So like if someone does something and it draws you in and you're like, oh, I want more of that, just recognizing like, I would love a partner who does this. Or if something happens in a conversation or at work or whatever, and you're like, oh, I really didn't like that, being like, okay, I do not want a partner who does this, or I want a partner who doesn't do this. And just finding that clarity within yourself of like kind of narrowing in on what exactly it is that you want.
And yeah, I think it's a good point of like, just like
different perspectives.
Don't be too like, I need this, I need that. Whenever you're coming into it out of a place of desperation, impulse, and neediness, you're always going to attract weird things. So just like look for someone you vibe with and not be desperate about it. Just like, okay, I like this person, I don't like this person. Not just someone who's physically attractive, because if you're like, well, they're hot, but like they're weird, I don't like the way they act, they're kind of
rude,
they're ignorant, I don't know. Like it's just not going to create a good dynamic for yourself. Just look for someone you vibe with, be relaxed, have no big expectations, and hold your boundaries. Okay, Michael, what's up, Michael? Michael says, hey, Johnathan, Mariah, how do you coordinate having solo cultivation sessions? Do you have a schedule for privacy? Curious how this plays out when living with a partner. I would say when we live in a 4-bedroom house, so like we have our own space and stuff at any time, and usually it's like like, hey, I personally haven't been doing much solo cultivation these days, but I mean, as far as like sexual practice specifically, but there definitely was a time when I was, and usually I was just like, I'm doing my thing, whatever. I wasn't always like, I'm going to have a tantric self-pleasuring session. Do not disturb me. I don't know if I ever said that, but just like, hey, I mean, we could. I certainly could. I don't know.
Yeah,
honestly, I think really that's more how we've done
it. Yeah, I have more to say on it. I feel like that's more of what I've done. Is I've been like, hey, I'm going to be doing this, and I want to do it in this space in the house. So like our bedroom right now that has like all of our clothes and the main bathroom and everything is in the main bedroom. And so I'll just be like, hey, if you need anything, like grab it now. Like I'd like to use it for the next hour, whatever, maybe more, just like whatever. And he's like, cool, I'll just respect that. You got your time. But yeah, so just kind of having that conversation. And I think other times just if like, say one of us was out of the house and the person who was home was going to be doing a practice and thought like, oh, maybe they'll be coming home soon, just lock the door. Like just lock the bedroom door. It's like, whatever. Like, hey, having my privacy, or send a text.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to be doing this.
Doing my ritual. Whatever.
See you when you get home and when I'm complete.
Okay. The Fuzzy Monk says, advice for achieving the shift of seeing sex as purely physical to value the energetics and exchange. Books or okay, so that's kind of the first question. Well, I guess it's connected. Any books or resources on releasing these book blocks, or is Qigong the main way for the shift? Qigong is definitely helpful, but for me, I would say it's a big part of it's opening the heart, connecting the sexual center with the heart. I would say this is probably number one for this aspect. It's something I've been talking about a lot, especially with the group going through my course, because it's a big thing that comes up is like this, still having this like very physical, like lustful approach to sex, which is, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Like you're always going to have this root chakra drive, but the key I found is being able to transform that lustful energy into something else by redirecting it upwards. It's really what it is. And a big part of that is opening the heart, because the heart creates a different, when your sexual energy moves into your heart space, or vice versa, your heart, kind of warms up the sexual energy. It changes the form of that energy to a more expansive, loving, flowing, higher vibrational energy, we could say. And it changes, your dynamic of how you experience sex, I would say. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is working with the heart. As far as books, honestly, I haven't seen, I'm trying to think of any books I've seen that really talk about this. I'm sure there's some, but I can't think of any off the top of my head, honestly.
Your future book.
My future book, of course. Sexing from the Heart by Johnathan White.
Yeah. And I think that it could just be also good to just throw this out there that, there's a million different ways to do anything. So if you're like, oh, I'm really wanting to achieve this thing, you're really wanting to see sex as have a different perspective of sex, like it isn't only through Qigong that you can get there. Like there are a lot of different ways that you can get there. And so just, I guess, kind of repeating what we've said throughout this, but just being open to that, like you said, connected with the heart, and just being open to like, okay, what's my pathway to seeing this differently? And, maybe a new teacher will pop into your life and you're like, oh, they explain this in a different way. And now it makes sense to me. And it just clicks. And when you're open to receiving that, for me, I find that that's exactly how it happens. Like you see a quote, or like a new teacher pops up and they like, you see one post, or, you get one email and it just shifts your perspective of it. Like it can happen in an instant. So it doesn't have to be one specific way, and it doesn't have to be like really complicated.
How many questions on Instagram today? It's all right. Stephen Watts says, you both seem very grounded and balanced. How do I not care what others think about me? I get mentally affected by people's criticisms, opinions, negative comments, and disagreeing beliefs. How do you stay centered and build an energetic aura to allow these things to bounce right off of you, develop a thick hide and shake it off, like Taylor Swift would say? That's a good question. Very, very, very good question, I would say. And this is important, right?
Answers.
Yeah, there's your balancing tools. For me, I was always kind of like, I don't know, kind of an alien. I always felt like, I grew up in a small country town with a bunch of rednecks and, cowboys. And I was definitely the weirdo in my school and things, because I was just always different. Right. And, so for me, from a young age, I just didn't always, care a whole lot about what people thought. Obviously I had some, self-esteem, self-conscious feelings and things like that. But, and living in, a lifestyle that's very out of the norm for, the group of friends I had in my life and things like that. So I would say a big part of it is finding people who are on a similar path as you, who resonate with you in some sort of community, whether that's online or in person, whatever, at least, it helps you kind of feel supported and be like, okay, I'm not the only one like this. And then when you do experience other people who are trying to tear you down, because this is the thing, is like people, when you start outgrowing other people, you're on like a higher level. They want to pull you back down to their level of things like that. I don't know. And so just understanding like, okay, they're where they're at in their process, and I don't need to, what they're saying to me, they're really saying to a part of themselves, right? Because we're all mirroring each other. So, and I would say, definitely my internal practice has made me create very strong energetic boundaries and just not really care about what's going on around me, because I'm strong within myself.
Mm-hmm.
Something that takes practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say a couple things that really helped me with that. And it's something that I still work through all the time, because I'll be going along and everything's fine. And then one thing will come out of nowhere and I'm like, oh, I actually let that land on me. And so I think a few things that can be really helpful is, one, looking at what your hooks are. So looking at I like to say what activates you instead of what triggers you, but what really like activates something you need to be like, I gotta defend myself, or like, oh, that just there's something wrong here. And noticing what those things are so that then you can work with it and be like, okay, is there something underneath this? And where did this come from? What was the first time that I felt this? And seeing if there's a way that you can work with it. And something else is that when those things come in, running it through a filter and saying, okay, is this true? First of all, yes or no, just super simple. Is this true? And like, is it true? And is there something like deeper? So kind of similar to the other one, just is there something deeper here, or is it just that? Is it just that surface level thing? And once you work with that, then you'll be fine and you can move on? Or can you go deeper with it? Because a lot of times, exactly like you said, it's actually a reflection of that other person. It has nothing to do with you. So when that thing comes at you, just running it through that filter, just saying like, okay, is this actually true? Do I actually need to let this hook me? Do I actually need to get upset about this and feel bad about it? Or is this something that I can just say, nope, not mine. Just going to hand that back. Not going to take it on. Not going to let that latch on to me and bring me down. And it does take practice.
It's like in in Tai Chi, we learn to not have a hard surface for something to land on. It's the same thing. It's like anytime you have a part of yourself that's too rigid or too polarized, that's another big thing. Is like we get stuck in these excess polarities and we're always in a battle, right? So it's like, how can you become a little more fluid, not have so many hard edges, and learn to be more fluid, centered, and grounded, to be able to yield these things and just not let them land on you. I know it's easier said than done, but
with practice. Oh yeah. The other thing that I was going to say, I kind of joked at the beginning, but something that's significantly helped me, because I feel like I have always been very influenced by other people's opinions and thoughts and beliefs and all of that, is really working with physical objects that help me feel grounded. So this one, I actually have two of them. I just have one right now, but is a tachyon rod, Tachyon. If you want to just Google that, I don't know, it's really cool, really powerful energy, really, really grounding. This helps me a lot. Organite, also super helpful. And then just having a crystal for protection all the time. So
crystals are good. Crystals are good to work with, for sure. Walking nature, let the elements of nature cleanse you. Like when I go for a walk, I like to feel the breeze. Like just imagine my body's like kind of transparent. The wind's just like blowing through me and it's clearing out, whatever's not serving me, or water, shower, breathing in like another thing I like to do when I'm walking in nature is like breathe in, like feel like I'm breathing the energy of nature into every pore of my body, and exhaling like a cloud of smoke, which is like the old toxic energy, whatever, from my body.
Yes, so lots of clearing too.
Shaw says, what is the best way to transmute the energy while retaining for a person who doesn't meditate or do Qigong? And what is the best natural testosterone booster without side effects? Okay, so transmuting the sexual energy requires
something.
It requires a method, right? Exercise alone, thinking about alone, it's not going to do it for you. You must use a method. This is the whole thing. Testicle breathing practice, which I teach here on YouTube, the basic practice of it, is the number one. So, if you want to transmute sexual energy, you've got to put in the time and effort to do it. It's not going to do it itself. Creativity, also having like a creative outlet, can help you kind of channel some of that energy as well. And then the natural testosterone booster without side effects. I mean, really, this is about getting your lifestyle in check. Sleep is number one. That's been something that became apparent to me this year, was balancing my yin. If you want, this is the thing of Chinese medicine, is like, if you want more yang, you have to supplement your yin. If you want more movement, action in your life, you have to have more stillness, right? If you're just trying to be like, go, go, go all the time, I just need more uppers. It doesn't work like that. You burn yourself out. So getting your sleep in check, exercise, especially working the muscle major groups, the thighs, heavy squats, great for boosting testosterone, clean diet, testosterone boosting herbs, Tongkat, Trebulus, animal organs, grass-fed, pasture-raised. These things will, getting all your minerals is very, very important as well.
Adrenals, support.
Kidney support for sure. Christian Mooney, hey, what's up, brother? Another Multi-Orgasmic Man participant says, how do you stay healthy in mind? Michael's in there too. How do you stay healthy in mind and spirit while desiring a partner? I've never had a partner, so a lot of the desire is just curiosity. I don't like the feeling of looking for someone. I think that's a great question. Being in the space of loneliness, like, oh, I'm so lonely, I need someone, I'm so unhappy. It's not a very good vibration to be in to really manifest a truly balanced relationship. I mean, I was in this space in my life for, I went through a really difficult breakup, and then I spent like a year or two just being like, oh, I need someone new. I need someone like right away. I need someone that's what will, help me. And it just led me down some very less than optimal interactions, I would say. And I had this massive clearing early 2013. I was doing a holotropic breathwork session, and I just had this massive healing, and it actually opened me up to my inner child. Like, wow, I've been ignoring this part of myself, the part of me that just like wants to play, to have fun, to stop worrying about all these adult concerns and rigidities, and just like have fun and be creative and play. And it was incredibly healing for me. And I dropped this, like, I need to find someone. And I was just like, I started loving myself. I started enjoying being in my own company. I started enjoying to like play and do the things I want to do. And it was very, very powerful.
I feel like where he's coming from is really, I feel like it's a really healthy place to be in.
Yeah.
Like that's the ideal place. And kind of just continuing to, I would say, just continuing to like hold the vision. And I don't know if you were on earlier when I mentioned just noticing all of the different things. So literally what I did is I wrote down a list. I think Tony Robbins or someone had recommended like answer these 6 questions and blah, blah, whatever. It was about like attracting a partner. And so I answered those questions and I honestly completely forgot about it. And then I think it was within like a month or 2, we ended up meeting. And I couldn't have planned it, but I'm like, he was like everything on that list and more, like more things that I couldn't have even known that I wanted. And so just starting to get kind of specific and having a specific vision of like, I want someone who will be the yin to my yang, whatever, in this area. I want someone who is like this. And then looking within yourself of like, okay, if I want someone who's going to be here, how can I meet them at the same place? And just making sure that you're in alignment and in integrity with like, okay, if I'm expecting someone to be here, am I also going to meet them there? Or am I going to make them carry me up to that place? So that's what I would say.
It's really about just continuing to do your daily practice, keeping yourself balanced, keep staying focused on what you living the life you want to do. And that's what will naturally put you in the vibration of meeting someone. And I think it's good to like kind of make the list of like, okay, who do I want to attract? Like you were talking about having your list, whatever, like what kind of person do you want to attract? Like write it down. Like I want these qualities. This is what they're like, blah, blah, blah. And then just, burn it, bury in the earth, whatever, let go of it. And then just be open to meeting someone, not like, like I have to go look for this person every single day. I mean, if you feel inspired, maybe go to a yoga class and, check out a dating app, whatever. But overall, just like keep yourself in the lifestyle you want to live, and you will start to draw that person towards you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a really big piece of it too, is just allowing yourself to live the life that makes you feel most in love with your life. Because when you're in that energy, that's naturally going to attract someone else.
Peter Caldwell says, are there certain Qigong practices that are best to do barefoot and others that are best to do with insulated footwear? I've heard different things on this, and my own experience is that it really doesn't matter. Like Qi moves through shoes, sure, negative photons or ions, whatever, and photons, maybe they'll be blocked by rubber, but Qi's beyond that. It's not something physical, right? You can ground, I've done Tai Chi on, 3rd-story buildings up high and still able to ground into the earth Qi just the same. I will recommend only, it is good. Yeah, sure. It's nice to be barefoot outside in nature. It can be more grounding, but I do not recommend being barefoot on the earth if it's very cold. If it makes your feet cold, it's going to pull your kidney energy. You'll feel more tired afterwards. So only barefoot outside if it's warm. Otherwise, I don't recommend. Or if it's like really wet and stuff, you get that like damp energy as well. Not good. So that's my recommendation. Michael says, do you still live in a country town? No, not really. We live in Idaho. No. Yes and no. But Boise's it's one of the top growing cities in the country right now. It's everyone's moving here. It's growing like crazy. So, but we live kind of on the outskirts of Boise. So we kind of get the best parts of living in the city without living. I could never live in like a major city personally. But it's a solid place overall. And he's asking, do you want to live in trendy, exotic places like Costa Rica and Tulum? I can't live somewhere tropical. I need 4 seasons. I've learned I need the full expression seasons, which is a great thing about living in the like a little bit more up north, is I get the 4 seasons fully.
Definitely want to visit all of the exotic places, but
I love to travel.
Don't need to live there.
Yeah, he says, I live in a small town in Ohio, and sometimes I feel like I'm disconnected from like-minded people. It can happen, but I mean, this is the great thing about the internet is that we're able to be connected right now and things like that. And, traveling's good. Traveling's great too. I've got, amazing people I've connected with all over the world. And, but if you feel the call to live somewhere else, do it.
Yeah. I always think it's really interesting actually when I learn about where different people are from. Like I'll see someone who lives in a major city now, and then they happen to say something about like, oh, when I grew up in this tiny little town in Ohio. Like I've actually heard of a few people who are from Ohio, and I'm like, wow, they're so big now. And I even think about like I grew up in a tiny town in Nevada, another tiny country town, and there was a kid that I went to high school with who was in the NFL, and I'm like, people probably think that like his hometown is just like the most hodunk, like tiny little thing. But, people that are capable of doing great things exist everywhere. And so it's like there are people, I'm sure, in your small town Ohio, and it might just be some creative manifestation to meet them, but I'm sure that they're there.
Oh yeah, Michael was talking about doing Qigong in the park on our call the other day. So I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Michael. And you'll meet some interesting people doing Qigong in the park. I've met some interesting people doing it. Just a random thing there. Zach Webb says, "What do you think about yoga?" Yoga's great. Yoga's phenomenal. Yoga was my first kind of physical discipline. But I will say that, or rather, most people, they say yoga, they're talking about asana practice. Yoga was originally an in-depth kind of, I think, energy cultivation system, but it's been, I could say, pretty disconnected from its roots now. It's kind of like whatever everyone does yoga now. There's a yoga studio everywhere, but there's not much as far as like internal cultivation in modern yoga that I've seen. But it's great for your body. It opens things up. It can help open up your meridians and things like that. But it has its limitations as far as internal energy cultivation. That's what got me into Qigong and Tai Chi is the actual experience of energy versus just like, okay, I'm, talking about chakras, doing these stretches. I guess it's all, but yoga is great. Having said that, it's just, it's a very specific type of practice. Chris Isum says, have you ever practiced magic? No, not really. It's not something that ever really vibed with me personally. I mean, magic's a pretty broad term, but yeah, not really. Not as like, yeah. Okay, Rafael Reynaga says, how can I avoid the blue balls symptom after long sex date without ejaculating? Qigong or some sort of massage, microcosmic orbit practice or something. So blue balls is basically too much energy stuck in your genitals. What you want to do is be circulating that energy during sex. So microcosmic orbit's kind of the foundation for this. I've got, microcosmic orbit videos on my YouTube. Testicle breathing then, and circulating the energy through your body as you're having sex is very, very important. Otherwise, yes, you will get blue balls. And also keeping the pelvic floor relaxed. If you're tensing it a lot during sex, I've noticed that causes this kind of blue balls effect as well. Chosen One says, I'm planning on doing a month of sunset and sunrise meditation out in nature by the ocean. Any tips to make the most of this practice and stay consistent? I think the power of the sun is heavily underrated. No, it's great. It's the best time to do really any practice is sunset and sunrise. The yin yang energy is very balanced. Plus, you can look directly in the sun, get that rising sun energy, which is very potent. I work with the sun every day that I can. So yeah, just do it. I don't know what to say. There's different practices you can do while doing this, but overall, no, that's a solid practice.
As far as staying consistent, I would just say like if you happen to miss a day or whatever, like don't be so hard on yourself that it's like detrimental to your practice. Like allow yourself to just flow with it and be like, okay, I'll get back to it tomorrow. Like not let it derail you completely if that's your commitment.
John Phillips says, what's your best tip for staying in the flow all the time versus polarizing flow, no flow lifestyle? The polarizing flow. Yeah. So for me, it's about kind of balancing structure and not structure in your life. So it's like, for me, I must do my practice every day. So that's kind of like that's a little more masculine, logical planning and things like that. But it's important for me. And that helps me get in the flow. So the rest of the day, I don't, I used to like, I had a short period of time where I was like planning everything I was doing every day, but it started to feel like a prison, and so I would say it's kind of, this is wu wei, right? The Taoists talk about wu wei, the state of doing without doing, where you're always in the flow, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing without, basically it's always like following your intuition, your inspiration. It's like whenever you feel really excited to do something, do that, versus like, well, I don't want to do this. I feel like I should do this other thing, but logically I feel like I should do this. So I don't know. It's definitely an art, like living your life in flow. And I think keeping yourself open, staying out of your head and staying more in your heart, following your intuition is a big part of it.
Yeah, I would say just my perspective on it, trying to stay in flow all the time is an imbalance, because that's not human. Humans are here to experience polarity. We're here to experience both sides of everything. And so that doesn't mean we're always going to feel 100% happy. It doesn't mean we're always going to feel 100% in flow, and just allowing ourselves the practice space to be okay with that, of saying like, okay, I can be in flow here in this activity for this amount of time or whatever. And maybe just setting yourself some sort of a container of like, okay, for the next 3 hours, I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing, whatever feels inspired. And the rest of the day, I have like scheduled things that I'm going to do, or flipping that if that feels better, doing the scheduled things first and then letting it flow later. But yeah, just kind of bouncing more off of what you said, kind of similar things, just maybe releasing the grip on wanting to be in flow all the time, and allowing yourself the space to be like, okay, I'm going to be in structure for a bit. How can I play with that in a fun way that feels empowering and not wrong? Because I think that's also really glamorized, is like, oh yeah, especially in like feminine work, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm just in flow all the time and I never have to do anything or schedule anything or plan anything. It just flows. But that's not really what flow actually is. Like, flow is just that you're inspired. And so there's been multiple times where I'm like sitting down working, and whether I'm like writing or like creating something artistic or whatever it is, and I might be there for hours and hours, but it's flow because it's just coming through. Like, it's just pouring out, and it doesn't feel like I have to force myself to do it. And so maybe just also kind of attuning yourself more to like, what does flow actually feel like versus what does my mind say that flow is?
Yeah, it's a yin yang balance, really. It's like being able to structure things and let go of structure. For me, it's like I have several days of the week where I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything productive. I'm going to go out in nature. I'm going to play, have fun, just whatever seems fun today. I'm going to do. Of course, I do my practice too, and then I have probably 2 days
Ideas.
I'll have all these ideas and things that come to me. It's like, cool. When I'm in productive mode, I'll do these. So you get all these downloads and ideas, and then I have probably 2 days a week where I'm actually really working, which is great because on those days I'm super productive. I'm like, oh, I'm excited to express all these things, make all these things, and then I bust it out and I let go and go back into just having fun mode. So I don't know. It's an art for sure. Stephen Watts says, I have a fear of speaking and I get blocked on random words where I can't speak. I feel this is due to mental, energetic blocks due to childhood trauma. Do you have any advice? So, for me, this was a big thing, like opening the throat, being able to express, to communicate. I was always I was a very shy person throughout my life. I had a hard time like speaking what was on my mind, communicating with people. And it was interesting. And when I was living in Maui several years ago, I was having a reading by this guy, and he told me that one of my big themes in this life was going to be stepping into my throat and speaking, using my throat basically is to like create change in the world. And at the time I was like I was like a hippie musician. I was like, okay, whatever. But now it's like interesting because I'm, using my voice to talk about sexual kung fu and all this stuff. I never thought I'd be doing that back then. So it's just interesting. So I definitely had to learn to open up this center. And for me, I would say the best way to do it is to use it, to practice expressing. Maybe it's you're out in nature and you're like talking to yourself, talking to the universe, God, whatever, your higher selves, and just to practice expressing. Maybe it's, there's many different ways to open up the throat, but it's really about communication and expression, I would say, and like speaking your truth, being in your truth.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I was going to say, is just practice. Just even if it's literally just into your phone's voice notes app, just letting yourself like put that on whenever you have an idea that comes to mind that you're like, okay, I would like to express this, like just pressing play on the voice note and saying whatever it is, and then hitting end and being like, okay, I now have the choice to either listen back to that and like see what I want to critique, or just leave it alone and let it exist without ever going back to it. Or I can post that somewhere, or I can send that to someone, but just practicing, even if it's not in front of people. And then eventually getting to the point where maybe you start practicing going live, or you practice recording videos, or you practice speaking to a couple people at a time in person. But just, yeah, slowly building that up.
Okay, Instagram Live, it's cutting me off at an hour, so I'm going to pull that right back up. So give me a second, guys, on Instagram. Throw this up here.
I think we can change it later.
That's great. Just put it up there.
I'm just looking at some of the other questions. Rendell Frank, we'll have to go back and answer some of these, but Rendell Frank says, how much would you guys say you have grown since this whole pandemic began?
The pandemic.
I feel like a lot. There's been a lot of things that have happened, but I feel like I've been on a pretty accelerated growth path for the last 6 or 7 years anyways, so certain areas of it were just a bit more amplified, speaking of bunnies. Yeah, certain areas have just been more amplified, and I would say shifts have been a lot less of a decision and more of just like okay, Band-Aid is ripped off, there's no more decision making here, like the decision has been made. Moving forward, like choose what you're going to do to move forward, but like this has been severed, and that's been in the form of like relationships, friendships, like just lots of different patterns. Yeah, many different things like that. Just for me, a lot more of like a Band-Aid ripoff than like I don't know, let me play with this idea of maybe potentially changing this. Oh no, I don't think I'm ready yet. Oh, like, yeah. So it's right here. How much would you say I've grown?
Yeah.
Since the pandemic began?
Yeah, I mean, again, like Mariah said, we've both been on this path of transformation. And none of this was really like terribly surprising, to be honest, because again, I've said in other videos, I have paid attention to what's happening behind the scenes for many years, and I knew that something like this was coming. So it was a little surprising in the beginning, but overall it's like, okay, whatever. But I've always, so yeah, I've been on this path of growth for a while. And so it's definitely stepped up overall, I guess. Okay. Okay, Michael says, I've started doing powerlifting exercises and my lower back gets sore. Any suggestions on balancing powerlifting and Qigong, Tai Chi? Good question. I do this myself. I go to the gym and lift heavy weights 3 days a week. That's a big thing for me, is like having plenty of rest time. Like I used to go 4 or 5 days a week to the gym, and it was just too much. Like I wasn't properly healing. And plus I'm doing pretty intense, I'm on like one leg for 10 minutes doing my standing practices and all kinds of stuff. So basically so balancing these out, again, make sure you're not overdoing it with the exercise, allowing yourself plenty of rest time. Stretching for me is very, very important. Like I do I do like 20 to 40 minutes of yoga, both I'll do like 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, just to kind of stretch, open everything up. That really helps me stay in shape. Going to the chiropractor, getting, body work here and there as you need it. We just got an inversion table, which has been amazing. But yeah, just, allow your body to repair, not pushing yourself too much in the gym, like definitely being careful of your lower back and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And if you have it, like if it's accessible, either checking out different, just because I know this is common, checking out different either YouTube videos or actually specifically talking to someone. I think that's broken. Okay.
Oh, it's working.
I think it fell off once. That's why I've left it alone. But just really looking at form and making sure that whatever movements you are doing, that you're doing them correctly, because it can be really, really tiny little shifts of just like, okay, instead of pulling from here, instead of pulling from the lower back, try pulling from the back of your heel. And it's just like the mental thing of like shifting that focus of where your attention is in your body that completely changes the movement, so that the weight is actually being held by a different part of your body that's stronger instead of your lower back. So whether that means looking at YouTube videos, or even if there's someone in the gym, like I'm sure that someone would be happy to just tell you without like a personal training session, like, hey, can you just watch me do this one thing and like critique it and help me make sure I'm actually doing it properly? I'm sure they'd be happy to give you feedback on that, and looking in the mirror.
Yeah,
and stretching. That was the other thing I was going to say. Stretching.
Warming up.
Stretching.
I was stuck on squats for a while because I was trying to lift too heavy. My ego was getting in the way, and my form wasn't, it was a little less than optimal, we'll say. But I started doing less heavy weight with better form, and then I started actually progressing in my squats. So yeah, watching your form is important for sure.
Pat myself on the back for that one.
Okay. Tips on how to handle celibacy and stay celibate for long when trying to heal from years of not being in balance. I mean, just like anything, doing self-cultivation, meditation, clearing out the traumas of the past, clearing out your energy, just, general keeping yourself in balance and flow by having a daily practice where you're cultivating your energy and balancing it.
And listening to your own intuition around like, okay, is this still supporting me, or is this getting to the point where it's detrimental for me? And just like anything, also like if that means getting around other people who are like-minded. Like I know I've seen quite a few people recently talking about this online. So just finding those people that you resonate with, and yeah, I'm sure that they'd have really, really specific, really specific methods of working with that.
Okay. Christian Mooney says, have you guys ever read the Chuang Tzu? And if you have, what do you think of his main ideas? Yeah, so Chuang Tzu, who was a Taoist kind of philosopher.
I would not have been able to read that. I'm glad that you...
Well,
I know the words, but I'm like, whoa, that's how you say that?
Kind of the main Taoist philosophers, obviously Lao Tzu, Chuang Tzu, Chen Tuan is another one of my favorites. But yeah, no, his stuff was great. I'm trying to remember if it was him. I'm pretty sure it was him who said, "Am I the butterfly?" Or I had a dream that I was a butterfly. Then I woke up, was like, was I the man dreaming I was a butterfly, or am I a butterfly dreaming of the man? So I can't remember if that was him or not. I believe it was, but all kinds of things. Also some like little low key alchemical things, like the sage breathes through his heel. Maybe talking about the heel vessels, 8 extraordinary vessels, grounding energy, things like this. But yeah, no, overall, Chuang Tzu is, I like his works a lot. Denson Ngumo says, how to recover when feeling really tired despite exercising and eating well. So tired that I end up with insomnia, which has a result of making me even more tired, vicious cycle. Sounds like adrenal depletion. We've both experienced this in our life.
I would recommend either catching up with a naturopath or in your area, just search for a functional endocrinologist, somebody who's going to work with the endocrine system in a natural way. So they're not just going to be like, okay, let's just put you on hormones straight away. They're going to actually work with herbs and things to try and help you first. And I know that there are also other tests that you can take online to just look at like, okay, where are my mineral levels at? Where are all my hormonal levels at? How are my adrenals doing? But yeah, I think that if you're taking good care of yourself and you're still not feeling well, there's something else underneath that, and it might not be a big deal, but just once you know what it is, you can actually do something about it. And so that was actually something that, yeah, I kind of avoided for a long time in a silly way. Just didn't really feel that great for a couple of years, and then finally was like, okay, I give up. I'm going to take a hormone test. And then that just revealed everything. And I was like, oh, okay. Everything makes so much sense now, and I have a path forward. So just looking at the ways that science actually can be supportive.
And something I learned this year is like, especially with this kind of thing, is that we're often like, I need to do more. I need more exercise more. I need more herbs. I need more supplements. When actually you're doing too much. You need to just stop doing so much, let go, and like allow yourself to rest, because adrenal burnout is very, very, very common in this world. I say it's more likely for people to have it than to not have it. And part of recovering that is allowing yourself to rest, to just be lazy, to spend some time just sitting on the grass, looking at the clouds, I always say, and more sleep, more yin to build the yang again and rebuild your adrenals. Mm-hmm. So yeah, finding a good, naturopath could be very helpful as well.
Yeah.
Holistic health practitioner in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just finding somebody to work with outside of you helps make it a lot less of like an internal mental struggle where you're like, I don't understand. I'm doing all the right things. Why isn't this working the way that it should be? And kind of turning it into a guilt trap for yourself. Yeah. Just getting an outside opinion.
Chosen One says, do you guys believe it's possible to never have a fight with a romantic partner, or are fights a necessary part of love?
I don't think that
That's an interesting question.
necessary,
I don't think it's necessary.
though I think it can bring more depth.
I mean, I think
not necessarily fight.
I'm not going to say there's either one way or the other, because some people just have this kind of energy where they need a conflict within their relationships here and there, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships. But, you know, Mariah and I, we've never really had big fights, or like, we don't really fight. We've had our like irritations, we've had our things that we're going through, but we've never, I don't feel like we've ever like fought about anything specifically, just because we have a kind of a different way of addressing things when there's some sort of conflict going on or something like that. So overall, yes, like resolving disharmony, which is really what a fight is often, is, something's been suppressed or not addressed for so long that it comes out in a more forceful way. But there's also a lot you can do to make sure that it doesn't build up to that, like having open communication, sharing, having some time to check in, like, hey, what's going on with you? What is there anything bothering you? Like, is there anything, so just,
practicing different forms of communication.
For sure. Is very important. But we also know people who are like, oh, me and my spouse, we fight every day. And it's like, then they seem happy together, but it's like, I don't know.
Kind of like you said, everybody has their own choice of what they desire. And some people, I can't remember what it was. I was reading something in astrological stuff recently, but it was just kind of a reflection of like this type of sign or energy or whatever it was, whatever I was reading was just saying that like this type of person might continuously search for conflict. That might be in like any little tiny thing in life. It might be with their pets. It might be with, their internal conflicts. It might be in a relationship. And so just, like you said, there are people who that's just the way they operate. And I think both of us are very not confrontational. And we're both like, how can we just keep the peace and not avoid things, but just,
Randall Frank says, do you guys look forward to the new Earth coming in like Avatar? Well, there's definitely a new Earth coming in. There's definitely massive changes coming in, which, obviously we're at times of unprecedented change. The system we're in cannot be sustained. Things are kind of coming up to this climactic battle, this huge spiritual battle, this war on the planet right now. As far as coming on the new Earth, I mean, it's, a lot of people have this thing of like, oh, well, everything's just going to like, extraterrestrials are going to come in, angels are going to come in, whatever. We're going to shift dimensions and all of a sudden everything will be perfect. I don't necessarily believe that that's how it's going to happen, because the truth is that everything that's happening in the world is a reflection of what's within us, right? And what's going to create a new Earth, it's us. It's not some person up there sitting in a spaceship or whatever. It's us. It's you and me. We are creating the new Earth right now. It's our creations. It's our actions. It's the things that we're doing right now that are creating our reality. And the amazing thing is that so many people are waking up and understanding, like this whole shit show of a situation the past year and a half has been such a wake up call to people, like, wow, we've been lied to about these things. Wow. This weird power system that's been in place forever is actually, not what we thought it was and things. So people are waking up and they're starting to take a different approach to how they're living life. And again, I think this is just going to continue. There's definitely a lot of shadow to process. There's definitely a lot of conflict to process, but overall, we are creating the new Earth ourselves. And I think that, suppressed technology, ancient healing practices like what I'm sharing is going to be what really causes a major transition into a whole new paradigm based on free energy and, and self-empowerment, hopefully not the opposite. Okay. Chris Duig. Sorry if I said Chris says, tips on getting through a breakup with kids, wanting to fix it, but the other half is emotionally not wanting the romance and wants to explore other connections, how to let go. Yeah, breakups are always difficult, especially when, you're still invested, but the other person maybe is not. They're like, well, I mean something else now. It's very difficult, especially when there's kids involved, the best advice I think I can give is, having your daily practice to process, to clear, setting your boundaries and doing whatever you can to, move through it gracefully.
I would say allowing yourself space to feel whatever is coming up. So the disappointment that might be coming up of, you wanting to go in your direction and the other person not seeing the same idea, just allowing feelings to be okay and allowing those feelings to come up and be expressed, so that they don't end up getting lodged somewhere in the body and causing other issues down the road later. But yeah, I think just taking it day by day and knowing that every day is going to be different, and just allowing yourself to be present with where you're at right now. Nothing's permanent. And so just remembering that, especially with kids, every day is going to be very, very different. And I'm sure that, maybe even just, I'm sure it could be really empowering for kids to also see whatever part of your process that you feel safe sharing with them. I don't know how old they are, obviously, but just, allowing yourself to learn from them and to share with them if they're open and willing to receive that communication with you. And that's what I would say.
Wishing you the best with your situation. Emotional clearing, Qigong. It's going to be very, very helpful. Staying grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Michael says, any plans for future event appearances? If so, which ones? Would be cool to meet at one. Yeah, I would love to meet you, brother. Meet up with all you guys, whoever. It's always good to meet people doing this work and stuff. So I don't have anything planned as of now, but I definitely am going to be doing more in-person events. I had a couple this year, and I have I'm involved. I've got a property in Oklahoma, and we're putting in me and some friends have gone together. We're going to create this kind of community, and part of it's going to be a retreat center. It's going to be super, super awesome. I'm really excited to get this going. It's going to take a little bit of time, but overall we've got the ball rolling on it. So there'll definitely be some things happening in South Oklahoma, just 2.5 hours north of Texas there in the future. But overall, yeah, I'm sure I'll have some things coming up next year. I'm kind of taking a bit of a winding things down for the year, going into I love the winter because it allows me just to let go and like, okay, no more busyness. Let's just restore energy and prepare for another year of craziness, right? But I'm sure I'll be doing a lot, next year, and I'll definitely be letting you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Mooney says, do you agree with the quote that what we seek in others is what we have lost in ourselves? I definitely think there's some truth to that, definitely. Or it's rather, well, yeah, what we don't have within ourselves. And this is kind of the idea of polarity and magnetism, is that we're attracted to the opposites because we complement each other and things like that.
Yeah. And I think I could see it both ways. It could be true. And also it's not like the absolute truth. It's not 1,000,000% the only option in every situation. So that would be my perspective on it.
Denson says, do both of you engage in Reiki practice? Did a Reiki training. I don't know. It's a good tool, but for me, it doesn't have the depth of other systems I've studied.
And I was really deep into it for a couple of years and haven't really been using it that much in recent months, but kind of playing with the idea of playing with it again. So yeah.
Ryan Sinks, is any negatives going on with a vasectomy energetically? Not that I know of. I know many, many people who've had vasectomies and they don't report anything, terribly different. Personally, me, I don't like to do any like unnatural physical alterations to my body, but whatever. Again, I haven't heard anything crazily negative from anyone about it, so I can't really say too much about this because I haven't had it myself. Lucas says, do you guys get the bee sting? No, we didn't, and we're not going to. As I said before in this video, no force on this planet could make me put this weird corporate science experiment in my body.
Yeah. Bee sting. I like that.
The old wham. Quantum Doula says, are you leaving Boise? We might be after our lease ends up here. We'll be here till next May at least, and we're not sure what's after that. There's other places we'd like to live, but we'll see what's going on in the world. Okay. Probably going to wrap this up soon. It's just a couple more questions, but TOM Gaming says, opinions on compulsive sexual fantasies that are hard to ignore and resulting guilt and shame. I'm not sure if they stem from just porn or trauma too. I think it can be both. It can be like maybe weird childhood things or whatever, abuses and things can turn into like weird kind of sexual things. But a lot of it's porn conditioning too. Like you saw weird porn stuff and now you have this obsession with it. And a lot of that is just clearing up your energy field, changing your energy flow. I'm sure I definitely experienced this myself earlier in my life, but doing just sexual kung fu, kind of rewiring my sexual experience and how I express sexual energy removed a lot of these things. Having a more heart-centered connection to sex makes you less like focused on images and like ideas about sex, and more like just the experience and the connection involved. Uka says, how did you two meet? We met on Bumble. For the only person I ever met up with through a dating app.
And I had gone on kind of off of the story I was telling earlier, after I had written what I wanted in a partner. I'd been using Bumble and Tinder and stuff to basically find cool places to like eat and go out when I was traveling a lot. And so I was like, maybe I'll actually use it in Boise, like to actually date. So yeah, started using it here, went on a bunch of weird dates, and was literally, I actually deleted the app. And then I was like, well, I was talking to a few people, I'll get their numbers, and then I'm done. And then when I re-downloaded the app, I think we had matched and you had messaged me or something, or I messaged you, I don't remember. And then I think we met the next day, and that was it. And then I officially got rid of the app. I was like, okay, good, I'm done.
That's how we met. Are you guys planning to have kids soon? Not anytime soon. I don't know what the future will bring, but yeah, right now, yeah, this would be, yeah.
Not going to try right now.
Fight commentary. What's up, brother? Oh. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Well,
perfect.
Got all the questions.
That feels like an accomplishment.
Yeah. I feel like well, it's been a little while. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. It's always good to hang out with you guys, see what's going on. And I probably won't be going live next week. We're heading to Mount Shasta this weekend. Super stoked. Going to spend a week there. And yeah, so check out my new free Qigong course. There's a link in this video on YouTube. There's a link in my Instagram bio, energy upgrade course. Learn to feel your energy. Okay, here's it going. Gilray says, are you preparing for financial collapse? Bitcoin, gold, silver, food. Oh yeah, we're prepared. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen. You know, I don't get too much into like, oh, fearful things. This is horrible, everyone. Because, you know, my whole life I've been hearing about all these fearful things that never happen. But overall, I take obvious precautions because yes, our money is very, fiat money is nothing. It's a slave system, and it's constantly going down in value because they're constantly pumping out more. So yes, most of my money's in cryptocurrencies right now, you know, and things like that. So yeah, I recommend putting your currencies in something real, investing in something real that will last. So, okay, guys, take care.
Oh yeah.